I'm Aaron Maté, sitting in for Jimmy, here with Misha Pollan and Americans comedian Kurt Metzger. And there was just recently a big anti-war rally in Washington, D.C., Rage Against the War Machine, voices on the left and the right, Dennis Kucinich, Tulsi Gabbard, Jill Stein, Ron Paul, many others calling out the proxy war in Ukraine, demanding peace. Well, it got some attention from MSNBC. Specifically, MSNBC's most popular host, Rachel Maddow, the top Russiagator in corporate media of the last 7 years. And check out how she reported, quote unquote, this rally.
And I mean truly random rally on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. A rally in support of Russia, I guess, given all the Russian flags.
There was like a few Russian flags there. None of the organizers had anything to do with that. And that's what she's focusing on, to paint this as some sort of pro-Russian rally, even though you had many speakers like David Swanson condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
But that's why they said somebody's sending someone with flags for that very reason, so that this idiot can go, war. So remember Trevor Noah at the trucker thing? He goes, if there's even one Nazi flag at the parade, then it's a Nazi parade.
Yeah.
You don't say it about Ukraine, but he'll say it about truckers.
Exactly.
At least a rally against the U.S. supporting Ukraine.
What?
It's a rally against the U.S. using Ukraine to fight to the last Ukrainian against Russia, to use Ukraine for a proxy war, and to call for the thing that the Biden administration has been sabotaging since even before Russia invaded, which is diplomacy. That's what this rally was for.
You got a funny definition of support.
Exactly.
Trying to stand up against the Russian invasion of their country. This was a tiny event. It was small. It was a weird assemblage of Americans. There were Proud Boys there. There were some of the white supremacist groups you'd recognize from
the blue hair gentleman. That's a Proud Boy. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know what she's talking about here. There were, I think, a few people who've been associated with some white supremacist groups, but they weren't invited by the speakers. And I'm not even sure if they were there to support the rally. And again, the irony of trying to call attention to a couple of people who might be associated with white supremacist groups when Maddow is supporting the policy of arming a Ukrainian military that has a neo-Nazi militia incorporated into it, the Azov Battalion.
I'd rather have a full nuclear war than even one Proud Boy being within 5 feet of a thing I was having.
Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville a few years ago.
Was that a peace rally though, Rachel? Was that a thing of we need to end war no matter who? I thought that was a kind of a racist thing.
In Charlottesville, you had people there who were supporting the Azov Battalion inside Ukraine because they're a neo-Nazi battalion.
Right. There was a brother Tiki March going on in Ukraine at the same time as what she just brought up.
Also represented prominently the remains of the bizarre Lyndon LaRouche cult. There were a lot of people.
That's true. That's
even weirder than the Russiagate cult.
Exactly.
Still around.
Even weirder than Blue and I. Yes, there are some LaRouche people there. And some LaRouche people, I have to say, although I'm not a LaRouche person, I don't agree with Lyndon LaRouche. And
you don't think we're moving into a machine tool society?
Not yet. But still, some members of the LaRouche movement have done some really brave action standing up to all these warmongering politicians.
We had them on. Those great what
they've done. So it's like I'm supposed to diss them because they're a part of a movement. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ew. Yeah. Oh, with Russian peace. I don't like peace then.
Weird.
Flags, also the occasional flag of the former Soviet Union. Also, at least one person who guest hosts for Tucker Carlson on the Fox News channel was there as a featured speaker.
So that's how she defines, or that's how she characterizes Tulsi Gabbard, as someone who guest hosts on Tucker Carlson. In a second, we're going to show why that's so disingenuous, because Rachel Maddow knows very well who Tulsi Gabbard is, because she used to have her on back during a different era of Rachel Maddow and MSNBC.
There were anti-vaccine conspiracy theorists, a lot of them. There were cryptocurrency.
Crypto? Oh my.
She's calling out conspiracy theorists. She was the leading promoter of the conspiracy theory that Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump had a secret conspiracy and that Trump was blackmailing Putin. That's why she warned, for example, that Putin was going to get Trump to withdraw U.S. troops from Europe because of the P-tape. There's no one who spread conspiracy theories more than this person. She's calling out conspiracy theorists and calling people anti-vaxxers when she's the one who spread misinformation, as you can know about by watching this show, when she said that the vaccine stops transmission. That's a straight up falsehood, which she's never actually retracted. And we've shown that clip a million times on this show. Jimmy has. So she's accusing other people of spreading misinformation and being conspiracy theorists, when really in corporate media, no one spread more conspiracy theories, more dangerous conspiracy theories than she has.
Promoters, it was a really weird group. It was a small rally, and a weird one.
How many times has she said weird?
It's weird to go like, yeah, peace. Like only this many people want peace. That's a strange weird. Like thing to be like, ew.
But that's what it looks like. That's the assemblage of short straws and split ends and loose change and loose electrons that's advocating in this country that Russia's in the right in this war and America should be on Putin's side as he keeps invading other countries.
What, Ukraine can't defend itself? You don't want Ukraine to defend itself with $100 billion of our dollars?
They're advocating that the U.S. should be on the side of peace rather than a proxy war. And
that's what Russia wants.
That's why you had many people condemning Russia's invasion. It's not about supporting Russia. But of course, this is just so distant. Every word in here is basically.
I don't even like Russia, but I like it better than Rachel Maddow. Like, genuinely, Putin I've never had feelings about, but I like him better than Rachel Maddow. I can say that without any reservation.
I mean, no disrespect to the Americans who turned out.
Yeah, you mean disrespect. You mean a lot of disrespect. You just accuse them of being short of electrons. Exactly, yeah. They're short of electrons or short circuit. I mean no disrespect. It's so disingenuous.
Part of this small event this weekend, but it's not like they represent a big constituency that is arguing for this pro-Russia point of view.
So that's a pro-Russia point of view to want peace in Ukraine. That's
you know what? Just real quick, Overton texts me. She's programming her viewers how to respond word for word. That's exactly what that is. Because every time I hear people say the same dumb shit like that, I'm like, oh, that's a trickle. They probably didn't even watch Rachel Maddow. The girl they're dating watch it and told them, and then they say it to me.
Here's Jimmy Dore. Maddow is a straight-up psychopathic warmonger. That's actually not hyperbole. She's pretending that NATO and the U.S. did not intentionally provoke this war, and she focuses on some rando holding a Russia flag to discredit the peace rally. Of course she did.
Jimmy, Russia can't just invade a sovereign nation.
Imagine
you know how bad that is? Just go into a nation that's sovereign?
Never. The horror. Jack's Page, Dirtback Leftist, says, no interviews, no on-the-ground reporting, just a few shots, hyper-focused on a Russian flag and labeling it a pro-Russia rally. To no talk about being anti-war, no discussion about what endless war costs us, just lies. Because MSNBC Rachel is brought to you by Boeing.
Yeah, because Boeing believes in girls in STEM.
So a Twitter user, and I didn't catch the username. I apologize to you. I will credit you when I can. There was a Grimes, I think, in the name.
Is this a joke?
So what this person did is he put together how Rachel Maddow would cover the anti-Iraq war rallies if they were happening today.
All right.
This is a truly random protest in the UK. A rally in support of Iraq, I guess. Saddam Hussein, judging by all the Iraqi flags in the audience. This is a pro-Saddam Hussein rally. Oh my God, you guys, it's so random. Look at all the Iraqi flags. It must be a pro-Saddam rally. Look at all these pro-Saddam people waving flags.
Politics.
So remember when Rachel Maddow showed Tulsi Gabbard speaking at the rally and said, and also a guest host on Tucker Carlson?
She up-talks like a zoo, like a millennial. Like, oh my God. So, I guess, or whatever.
So wouldn't even say Tulsi Gabbard's name. Well, that's all the more strange given that Tulsi Gabbard used to be a guest on the Rachel Maddow show. This is from back when Tulsi Gabbard was in Congress.
America gets our first ever Asian American woman senator from Hawaii. Her seat in the House, I should note, gets filled by this woman, a Democratic Iraq War veteran. I'm going to tell you right now that her name is Tulsi Gabbard because she is on the fast track to being very famous someday. Tulsi Gabbard.
So that's Maddow praising Tulsi Gabbard, on track to be very famous. And of course, the reason why Tulsi Gabbard's no longer welcome on shows like this anymore is because she not only called out the proxy wars, first in Syria and then in Ukraine, and then stood up against the Cold War mania of Russiagate, but also because she called out the DNC for rigging the primary against Bernie Sanders. And that made her non grata at places like MSNBC.
She's an Assad toady.
She's an Assad toady.
Barry Weishaupt from Rachel Maddow.
But before all this shift happened, there was a time when Maddow would even let Tulsi Gabbard on to criticize proxy wars. Here is Tulsi Gabbard criticizing the proxy war in Syria. This is back, I think, in 2014, around that time, 2013.
Now is Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. She's an Army combat veteran from the Iraq War. She's also a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman Gabbard, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Nice to have you here.
Thanks, Rachel. Aloha.
I guess how serious is a very general, wide-ranging question, but how serious do you think the situation is? How concerned are you about these latest reports?
I'm deeply concerned, Rachel, with what's happening there in Syria, but for its reasons that go deeper even than all of the news reports that we're hearing. The real concern that I see here is that our leaders continue to lose sight of what our mission really is, what the United States mission really is. And this is something that we saw started after 9/11 with President Bush, when he went into, rather than focusing on defeating Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, and these other Islamic extremist groups, instead he was distracted by removing secular dictators like Saddam Hussein. We saw this continued with President Obama and then Secretary Clinton in the removal of Gaddafi in Libya. And in both of those situations, Rachel, we have seen the results. The results are countries that are overrun with chaos and Islamic extremists. And this is the danger that we're seeing now with this lack of focus on mission and who our enemy really is in Syria. And here's the irony in all of this. And the thing that's deeply concerning to me is that the United States is actually partnering with these Islamic extremists on the ground, Al-Qaeda, al-Nusra, ISIS, and others, in supporting the removal of Assad, rather than focusing on defeating our enemy, those who attacked us on 9/11. Because what happens is, as the United States and others are focused on saying Assad must go, if Assad is overthrown tomorrow, these Islamic extremist groups who are united by one purpose, and that is to take over Syria, overrun the country, and present a greater threat, not only to the Middle East, but to the world.
So that's Tulsi Gabbard, back when she was allowed on MSNBC, laying out why she was opposed to the proxy war in Syria. And she's carried that over now to the proxy war in Ukraine. So Tulsi Gabbard on this issue has been consistent. It's Rachel Maddow that's changed, that would never allow this kind of point of view on her show anymore, and now pretends to not even know who Tulsi Gabbard is.
Oh, yeah. So Tulsi Gabbard just has her same principles from before and didn't change them along with Twitter. That's lazy.
And now she reduces her to just being someone who guest hosts for Tucker Carlson, not being a former member of Congress.
I think she fought for Russia in Iraq.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. She's an Iraq war veteran, too. And people like Rachel Maddow talk about how much they respect the veterans. Ken even also mentioned that Tulsi is an Iraq war veteran.
They call her a Russian traitor is what they were calling her. Yeah. Remember when Trump talked about John McCain, he goes, I like people who don't get captured. And they're like, how could you say that about John McCain?
Yeah. And then Hillary Clinton called Tulsi a Russian asset, and people like Rachel Maddow applaud because they support that kind of McCarthyism as they're doing now to the anti-war rally. And I found, so the person who made that mock clip of how Rachel Maddow would now cover the Iraq war, that is Road Grimes on Twitter. So well done, Road Grimes, at Road Grimes.
You made me laugh, dude.
That was a great little bit.
You made more of that, bro.
Yeah. And so Rachel Maddow goes from interviewing people like Tulsi Gabbard, letting her critique proxy wars, in this case in Syria, to now mocking anti-war activists like Tulsi Gabbard and saying things like this. This is recently Maddow mocking the idea of diplomacy inside of Ukraine.
This was not a meeting of two clashing forces. This was not, Ukraine provoking Russia when they knew they ought not to, but blah, blah, blah. The Russian mindset.
This was us pushing them to provoke Russia because we want them to.
People who were like, oh, we need to facilitate peace talks here. Really? I don't know, because it kind of seems like Ukraine was minding its own business and Russia came in and stomped into their house and started setting things on fire.
Oh my God. I give her credit for not using a homophobic slur about people who want peace. She goes, these people that want peace,
It's so, she sounds like Archie Bunker or whatever. It's so neocon. And of course, this idea that Ukraine was minding its own business. Well, Ukraine was actually minding its own business in 2014 when the U.S. came in and backed a coup. That new coup government encouraged assaults on ethnic Russians inside of Ukraine. Dozens of people in Odessa in May 2014 were burned alive protesting that coup. And events like that set off this war in which the U.S. and Russia were on opposing sides. Russia backed the people who rose up against the coup government. The U.S. backed the coup government. And that's been going on for 8 years. And she completely ignores that from her rendering because it's inconvenient to her narrative that we need to not have any peace talks and just keep pouring in weapons.
Yeah, well, she's like if Don Lemon was into chicks.
So there's not like a negotiation between the homeowner and the home invader at that point. So the outcome has to be specific to Russia. And we need to do our best to save and to save the Ukrainian people to the extent that they can be saved and protected.
To the extent they can be saved and protected.
First we got other problems, but if we can save them, if some of them live, that would be great.
What she means is that we can save them to the extent we can as long as we're using them to fight Russia. So that's the number one priority.
Nice qualifier from Rachel Maddow.
Yeah. So to the extent we can kill less of them or sacrifice less of them, we'll do that, but not at the expense of abandoning our proxy war against Russia.
Did you watch this douchebag nodding like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And to help the Ukrainian government and military stand up what they need to do to take care of their own people. But Russia needs to lose. Because otherwise, the lesson of this is that Putin can keep doing this. It's not like this is his first invasion, and it won't be his last.
Wait a minute. What are his other invasions? The Georgia?
Georgia. He invaded Georgia after the U.S. encouraged Georgia to attack South Ossetia.
What country outside his hemisphere, his whatever their Monroe Doctrine is? Did they like?
Well, they intervened. They did intervene in Syria, but they intervened in Syria after the U.S. spent billions of dollars arming sectarian death squads. And as John Kerry explained, the reason Russia came in is because ISIS was threatening to go to Damascus, take it over, and the U.S. was sitting back and watching because they were trying to use ISIS's advance as leverage against Assad to force Assad to basically let in a U.S.-backed leader and negotiate his exit. And so then Kerry says the reason Russia came in is because they didn't want an ISIS government, and also Syria asked them to come in. So technically, Russia's intervention there is not illegal because that was done at the request of the government that was facing a regime change war backed by the U.S.
How does the lack of long-term thinking, I guess it is long-term thinking, like, well, it's cool. There'll be an ISIS government. We'll have a new war one day.
Exactly. Yeah, they're willing to risk that. They were so committed to regime change inside Syria that they were willing to risk an ISIS government because that's who was on the
side in Iraq.
Yes, exactly.
Their next president was Saddam Hussein to ISIS was the next president.
And the same thing now in Ukraine. They're so committed to weakening Russia, maybe causing regime change inside Moscow, that they're willing to sacrifice Ukraine to do it. And Maddow is making that very clear there, to the point where she mocks people who want to have peace talks. And
I guess East Palestine, Ohio should be grateful.
And there's the same kind of mentality that can produce comments like this, where during the height of Russiagate, Maddow went and called a alleged Russian troll farm, putting posts on a Bernie Sanders Facebook page. Check out how she described it.
But the important thing here is that Bernie Sanders lovers page run out of Albania, it's still there, still running, still operating, still churning this stuff out. Now, this is not part of American politics. This is not, partisan warfare between Republicans and Democrats. This is international warfare against our country.
That's Rachel Maddow. Some alleged Russian trolls on a Bernie Sanders Facebook page is international warfare against our country.
Memes on our borders, on our electronic borders.
So when you're enough, in the words of Jimmy Dore, of a psychopathic warmonger to believe that some memes and trolls amount to international warfare, no doubt you're going to want to encourage international warfare for real against Russia and mock anybody who tries to advocate for peace.
Well, okay, do you think she's a psychopath without no doubt? Like most of these people that just read whatever the hell they give them. But if they were like, for some reason, they're like, hey, we want peace with Russia because we're making our money at a different conflict, she'd probably go along with that wholeheartedly, right? I mean, she'll just say whatever she's paid to say and she doesn't care.
She does hate Russia, though. You can see it. She got this visceral hatred of Russia.
Well, she got Geraldo Rivera by Trump's tax thing. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And she's like, she has a personal grudge and Russiagate wasn't real and she went to court like an idiot. So she probably feels personal. The one that got away.
Doing live stand-up comedy in Tempe, Palm Springs, Milwaukee, Nashville, Northampton, Massachusetts, Syracuse, Cohoes, New York, and Hartford, Connecticut. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets and become a premium member. Get access to all our content.